Hey everyone, welcome back to Learning English with Fasil, the place where we break down English grammar in fun, easy to understand ways. If you ever wondered why some sentences sound super crisp and direct while others feel a bit clunky, you are in the right place. Today we are diving into the world of active and passive voice. Whether you're writing an essay, crafting a story, knowing how to use this sentence or these voices can totally level up your writing game. So grab your notebook, get comfy, and let's get started. Here's what we'll be covering in today's video. We'll start with the basics. What are active passive voice and why do they matter in your writing? We'll explore how using the active voice can make your writing more direct and engaging and clear. Then we'll dive into the passive voice, when it's useful, why it's often misunderstood, and the type of writing that benefit from it. We'll discuss how to decide between active and passive voice depending on your writing goals and audience, as well as sharing some practical tips on spotting passive voice in your draft and how to rewrite those sentences in active voice for great impact. We wrap up with a summary of the main points and some final thoughts on mastering both voices. Take the sentence, I want ice cream now. It's clear and straightforward. You know immediately that the subject I wants an object, which is the ice cream. Now recast this sentence, flipping it so that the object is in position of the subject. Ice cream is wanted by me now. Isn't just longer, but is also more detached, roundabout, and more a little awkward too. Those two sentences are examples of the active and passive voice. Certain kinds of writing are best suited for the active voice, while the passive voice is more appropriate for other kind of writing. Understanding how, when, and why to use this is key to being an effective writer and speaker. Now that we've touched on the basics, let's dive deeper into what active and passive voice actually are and the different functions. In the active voice, the subject is performing an action. For example, the sentence, the dog chases the ball. In the subject, the bowler is actively performing the action, which is chases, on the target of the action, which is ball. This is straightforward and clear examples of active voice. It's simple, direct, and it clearly shows who is doing what. On the flip side, in passive voice, the action's target, like the ball in our example, is positioned first as the focus of the sentence. The sentence gets flipped, and now the subject is being acted upon by the verb, making it passive. So, the ball is being chased by the dog. Here, the emphasis shifts from the doer to the action itself. Active and passive voice are two grammatical voices in English, and every serves different function. Neither is any better than the other, but they're suited for different types of writing. For example, the reason why news anchors often sound detached from the stories they are reporting, they frequently use passive voice. This helps keep the focus on the action, or even rather than on who is performing it. On the other hand, authors of opinion, pieces of persuasive writing tend to sound confident and assertive because they typically use active voice. Active voice puts the subject front and center, making statements sound more decisive and direct. Also, it's common advice from teachers to avoid passive voice is not about avoiding it altogether. Passive voice has its application, especially when the doer of the action is unknown and important, or when we want to emphasize the action over the subject. We'll explore the specific scenarios a bit later. For now, let's focus on how to recognize active passive voice in your writing and other works. A quick tip. In active voice, look for a subject directly perform an action on an object. In passive voice, look for a subject that is receiving the action, often marked by forms of to be, plus a past participle like is being chased. Today, we will explore the characteristic benefits and appropriate context for both active and passive voice. By the end of this presentation, you will have practical tools to identify, use, and switch between these voices in your writing. Let's take a closer look at the active voice and why it is such a powerful tool in writing. As we learned, in the active voice, the sentence subject performs the action. Let's look at some examples. Shira likes bird watching. She loves Twilight. Well, in both sentences, the subject is Shira and she, right? It's actually which they are actively performing the verbs likes and loves. It doesn't matter what verb it is, as long as the subject is performing the action, you are writing the active voice. The active voice has a direct, clear tone, making your sentence concise and powerful, impactful as well. You have to use active voice when you want your reader to focus on the subject of your sentence and the action is doing, rather than on the action's target. For example, if you're writing a story or trying to persuade someone, active voice can make your sentence statement stronger and engaging. Let's say you're writing about a team project. Instead of saying the report was completed by the team, which is passive, you can switch to active voice, which then the team completed the report. This only shortens the sentence, but also clears attributes the action of the team, making it more dynamic. Active voice also helps eliminate unnecessary words, making your writing more concise. This is especially useful in business writing, communication, where clarity is key. For instance, saying the chef prepares the meal is much clearer and more direct than saying the meal is prepared by the chef. It leaves no room for confusion about who is responsible for the action. Remember, using active voice doesn't just make your writing sound better, it also keeps your readers' attention on what's important. Whether you're writing to inform, persuade, or entertain, active voice can help your message more effective. Now that we covered the active voice, let's dive into the passive one and explore how it works. In the passive voice, the focus shifts to the action target and the verb acts upon the subject. Or to put in the passive voice terms, the subject is acted upon by the verb. Every sentence in the passive voice contains two verbs. The first one is a conjugate form of to be, like is, was, and were. And then we have the main verbs past participle, like, loved, and known. Let's revisit our previous example, but this time written in a passive voice. Birdwatching is liked by Shira. Twilight is loved by her. Notice how the targets of the action birdwatching and Twilight are now the focus of this sentence. This sentence includes a conjugate form of to be. Is a main verb's past participle, liked and loved in this case. Often, sentences in the passive voice are longer than those in the active voice because they include extra words like preposition. For example, let's take an example. Summer break is loved by my friends. Here, we can see that the conjugate verb form of to be is included as is, and as well as past participle of the main verb, which is written as loved. And finally, the part of speech that we are looking for is preposition. It's written by. However, not all passive sentences require preposition. Here are some examples where they do not need a preposition, so they do not use a preposition. The check was paid. He will be remembered. The Philippines is known for its marine biodiversity. The passive voice has a subtler tone compared to the active one. This tone can be used when you want your reader to focus on the action or the action target rather than on who or what is performing the action. That's why passive voice is commonly used in scientific writing, lab support, or formal document. Helps convey objectivity by minimizing the focus on the doer of the action. For example, in a lab report, instead of writing the researcher measures the temperature, which is active, you must say the temperature was measured, which is passive. This shifts the emphasis to the process, rather than the person performing it, making the statement sound more neutral and objective. Now let's talk about when to use active passive voice in your writing, because also may have been told that writing the passive voice is bad writing is actually more nuanced than that. For most of the writing you do like emails, blog posts, and many kinds of essay, the active voice is usually more effective. It helps you communicate your idea, themes, and your facts in a clear, engaging way. But when the subject of the sentence is performing the action, your message is direct and easy to flow with active voice. However, there are situations where the passive voice isn't just useful, it's necessary. Take news reports about crime incidents, for example. They often use passive voice to emphasize the action as in the individual or group who committed it, especially when the perpetrator is unknown and has not yet been found guilty. Let's look at some examples. A car was broken into M Street last night. Cash was stolen from the register. In this sentence, the focus is on what happened, not on who did it. This approach keeps the report neutral and objective, focusing on the fact of the incident. The passive voice also plays a crucial role in other types of writing when the action itself is more important than the doers. This is common in scientific reports, historical accounts, and formal documentation. Here, the passive voice helps keep the reader's focus on what has happened or is happening, rather than on who is performing the action. Let's hear some examples. The rat was placed into the maze. The governor was inaugurated as a state house. Notice how in the both sentences the doer of the action is mentioned. That's because it's either implied or irrelevant. In the first example, it's clear that the scientist is conducting the experiment, but that detail isn't as important as the action of placing the rats in the maze. In the second example, the people conducting the inauguration ceremony aren't irrelevant to what's being expressed. Understanding when to use active or passive voice is all about knowing where you want the focus to be. If the doer of the action is important, stick with active voice. But if the action itself or the target of the action is your priority, passive voice might be the better choice. It's not about one being right and the other wrong. It's about choosing the right. Now, let's talk about how to change the passive voice into active voice in your writing. After you finish your first draft, take the time to read through it. You might even want to read out loud and listen how it sounds. By reading and listening your own work, you can catch awkward sentences and unclear phrasing, making them as point to revise in your next draft. This process also helps you identify where you've used active and passive voice and understand how they impact the overall tone of your work. Let's say you've spotted a few instances of the passive voice in your argumentative essay, for example. More flexible scheduling options are served by students. Significant amount of tuition are paid to the university every year, and many feel the level of service being paid for by students is not being received. See how this sentence feels like they're dancing around the topic rather than addressing it head on? The writer isn't making a particular persuasive writing, but they can make the writing far more impactful by changing it to the active voice. To convert passive active voice to active voice, follow the steps. Sentence by sentence, identify who or what is performing the action, and make sure that's the subject when you write it. Let's take the first sentence as an example. More flexible scheduling options are served by students. In this sentence, the students are the one serving something, so make student the subject. The main verb here is to serve, and the target is more flexible scheduling option, which will become the direct object in our new sentence. In active voice, the sentence would read, students deserve more flexible scheduling option. See how this version gets right to the point? It also makes the writer sound more confident, which is crucial in argumentative writing. Let's try changing the second sentence to active voice, which also allows us to condense it. Significant amount of tuition are paid to the university every year, and many feel the level of service being paid for by students is not being received. Now let's hear the active version. Students pay a significant amount of tuition to the university every year, and many feel that they aren't receiving the level of service they are paying for. This active version is much more clear and more direct, showing who is taking action and what the result is. You can see from this compound sentence that any kind of sentence, whether simple, complex, or compound complex, can be written in either voice as long as it has transitive verbs. Your choice of voice can dramatically alter your tone simply by restructuring the sentence. If you're unsure whether the sentence is active or passive based on how it sounds, use the rule we outlined earlier to distinguish the two voices. A big clue that the sentence is passive is the presence of form of to be, followed by a past participle such as was requested or will be missed. Not every passive voice sentence includes the doer of the action, but if it does, you often see a preposition like by zombies or by my brother. Remember, you can use either voice when paraphrasing a longer work, sometimes especially when paraphrasing scientific articles. The passive voice might be more appropriate. In the other case, paraphrasing in the active voice can make the original content clear and more engaging. Ultimately, the choice between active and passive voice depends on what you want to emphasize in writing. By mastering both, you can adjust your tone and clarity to suit any context, making your communication as effective as possible. To wrap things up, let's quickly recap what we've covered about active and passive voice. Understanding the difference between these two voices is a powerful tool in your writing arsenal. The active voice brings clarity, directness, and energy to your sentence, making your message strong and engaging. On the other hand, the passive voice can be just as useful when you need to shift focus away from the subject or maintain a neutral tone, like in scientific reports or static news articles. The key takeaway: neither voice is right or wrong. It's all about choosing the one that best fits for your purpose. By knowing when and how to use each, you can control the tone and impact of your writing, making it more effective and suited to your audience. Remember, practice makes perfect. As you continue writing, take the time to review your drafts, identify where you're using active and passive voice, and decide if it's serving your intended message. With this skill, you'll not only improve your writing but also become a more versatile communicator. Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more writing tips, and hit the bell icon so you'll never miss an update. Drop any question or suggestion for future videos in the comment below. I love to hear from you. Happy writing and see you next time.